Good morning. It is Thursday, February the 22nd. Yeah, I guess this is a Thursday thing now, except last week. I've been sick again. Um, that flu is going around with everyone, and of course I got hit. And I've actually been sick for about 3 weeks now. I'm still pretty congested. My nose is pretty stuffy, and my sinuses are pretty stuffy. You can probably kind of hear that a little bit, but it's been a wicked cold, wicked flu, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is anymore. Um, so yeah. Um, so I'm moving to Cleveland. Um, I I have decided to take my life into a different direction, and this includes uprooting myself from everything that I am familiar with at this point and moving away. Um, there are a lot of personal things going on around this that I don't think I'm ready to talk about on here yet, but those of you who are close to me already know. Um, so I'm kind of looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to some new adventures, meeting new people. I'm looking forward to a new environment to explore. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I've been working on getting parts of my life in order over here before I make that move. I'm moving at the end of April, early May, probably by May Day, by Beltane. So I'll yeah, I'm doing that. I'm working on getting the shop sold off, but it's hard to sell the shop off when nobody buys anything. Anybody need a bathtub? I'm selling a nice clawfoot bathtub for $100. Come and get it. Um, so my life has kind of been revolving around all of that and starting to say goodbye to some of my friends. Just, preparing for the move, preparing for the change. Some of my friends are taking it better than some of my other friends. Obviously everybody's going to miss me, and I'm going to miss everybody. And some people are looking at this as, well, it's just a new location. We'll still see you. We'll still see each other. And some people are looking at this and saying, well, there's always Skype and things like that. And then there's other people who are very upset because they feel that they will probably never see me again. And some of them might be right. Because I don't know how much more I'll come back to Wisconsin. One of the things that I want to do before I leave the state is I've been looking into my ancestry some over the last few months, and I have found several of my ancestors via Find-A-Grave, and they're not very far from where I am right now. So when it warms up a little bit and it's, weather that I can go stomping around in cemeteries, a friend of mine and I are going to go exploring for some of my family's gravestones. I want to take some pictures, take some rubbings, take some flowers to them, and just kind of have a day or two where I just kind of honor my local ancestors. Those folks that I never got to meet, but that have helped to form who I am in some fashion or another. I have managed to trace some of my ancestry back to 1790, I think, 1790s. I've gone back several great-greats on my grandfather's side. It's a paternal line that I'm able to follow that goes clear back to Poland and Prussia, Germany, that kind of area, which doesn't surprise me. That I expect. I think I was only able to go back maybe 2 generations past my grandmother on my grandmother's side. So I wasn't able to go very far there. But I actually have photos. There's photos of some of my great-greats. And I'm waiting for my DNA test results to come through on Ancestry.com as well. Because I've been curious my whole life as to what my background is. And I have been many different things through my life and then found out that I wasn't because of the family that I was raised with. So, I thought I was Irish until I was about 8-ish or so, and then I discovered I wasn't Irish anymore. So, it'll be interesting to see what my DNA results say when that comes back, if that says anything that's surprising to me, or if it says anything that's confirming for me. Yeah, I've moved. I'm living in a different home right now. I'm living with a friend of mine. He was kind enough to open up his house and say, I've got a spare bedroom, so you're more than welcome to it. So I've been settling into a new temporary routine for the next roughly 10 weeks, 9.5 weeks until I leave. I've been drinking more tea. I've been doing more meditating in the mornings, which has been really good for me. I actually have, I'm going through a new to me book called 365 Goddesses. I can't remember who it's by. But it's like a morning devotional type of book. You get up, you read about what kind of goddess they're featuring for the day, and they talk about any kind of celebrations or something that might be happening anywhere in the world for the day. Like, for example, today they're honoring Bina, which is the, if I remember correctly, Bina is not necessarily a goddess, but she is a principle of the Kabbalah. And Bina is a representation of, I think, peace and community, if I remember right. I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, please don't shoot me. I shouldn't say that. But anyway, today is supposed to be National Brotherhood Day in the United States, which I don't think anybody here has ever heard of. And they said that it actually goes back as far as the 1700s in the book. Obviously, nobody's heard of it because we're not doing a very good job of it, I don't think, these days. It's a little frustrating to go on my Facebook feed right lately, because with the school shooting that has just recently happened and the multiple shootings that have happened this year, years prior, it seems like almost everybody that I know, that's almost all that they talk about. And that's really difficult for me. A high school friend of mine posted on another high school friend's page a few nights ago about his memory of the shooting that happened for us back in 1993 at our school. And this was something that, when it happened, Columbine hadn't happened yet. And it was, school shootings were still fairly rare. It was isolated incidences. It wasn't big media. In fact, they took our school shooting, which was not anything of the caliber of what's going on these days, where a kid walks in and just mows students down. This was a situation where a young man had been getting, he'd been getting tormented by a couple of other young men for some time, through the summer at least. And he came in and fired a warning shot to scare the other two boys. And we did have a student that got hit by the bullet because it ricocheted. But this was not a case where an aggressor walked in with killing on his mind. But I'll tell you what, regardless of the depth of anger and aggression meant towards strangers or otherwise, when you're in a place where you think you're safe, like a school, which when I was going to school, that was a safe place, that was safe haven, and you have somebody bring in a weapon and either intentionally or unintentionally hurt people, it shakes your confidence, it shakes your sense of safety. And having your sense of safety in a place where you always thought that you were safe, having that sense of safety be shaken from you and be taken away, it doesn't matter how horrific it is. That sense of safety is important. And so many of us found, like for me, that was my senior year. That was the first week of school in my senior year. And I found myself afraid to go to school. We, as a collective school, a collective body of students, we found our lives turned upside down. Where we were once able to come and go from the school, it had been turned into a bit of a prison. There were security guards everywhere. They had put metal detectors in everywhere. There were random locker checks. We couldn't carry backpacks or purses. There was constantly this concern and fear. I remember about a week after the shooting had happened, I was sitting in the same annex as I was sitting in when the shooting happened in the main cafeteria. Literally, my group of friends and I were separated from what was going on by about 30 feet and 2 panes of glass. So we were right there. We were there. Well, about a week after this happened, I'm a joker. I like to prank and play games and mess around, and I wasn't even thinking. And I had my lunch in a brown paper bag, and I finished my lunch, and I thought I'd be funny. I blew the bag up, and I popped it behind one of my friends, thinking I'm going to scare the daylights out of them, and watched the entire annex drop to the floor because it sounded too much like a gunshot. And that's when it occurred to me that for the rest of our lives, for the rest of the lives of all of these kids that have experienced shootings ever, the adults who experience this as kids, the adults who experience this as adults, for the rest of our lives, we will constantly look over our shoulders in places where we once thought we were safe and wonder, are we safe? I'm going through this with another friend of mine who's in a situation where their sense of safety and community and safety within the community has also been shaken. And the only thing that I can tell them is it won't pass, but it will lessen. You will finally find the day where you wake up and you don't look over your shoulder. There will be more and more of them, but that concern will always be there regardless. So I look at my Facebook feed and I see the pro-guns and the anti-guns, and the pro-gun people are stupid and the anti-gun people are stupid, and you're trying to take our rights away, and all we're trying to do is protect our children, and teachers should be armed and nobody should be armed. And honestly, all this does is fuel that fire so much more. Having these kinds of arguments, these are not even healthy debates. Having these kinds of arguments is detrimental to finding the solution to the problem. There is no solution to the problem. That's the first start, is realizing that there is no one act that can solve this problem. If we arm teachers, that doesn't solve the problem, because there will still be teachers who will not want to be armed. There will still be people who fear the teachers who are armed. If we take gun rights away from the majority of Americans, or we require heavier testing, that won't solve the problem, because the people who are doing these shootings are acting outside of the law anyway. What is one more law going to help or prevent? To say that we need better mental health. Well, of course we need better mental health care. Of course we do. But you have to catch the people. You have to be able to help the people before they're a problem. And frequently, the people don't necessarily realize that these folks have a problem until something like this happens. So how do we solve these problems? What do we do about this? And I was thinking today as I was reading my devotional, today is National Brotherhood Day. How do we solve problems like gun violence? How do we solve problems like racial violence and racial intolerance and spiritual intolerance? And how do we solve these problems? You know how we solve these problems? We hug each other. We talk to each other. We get to know each other. We talk to our neighbors and we get to know who's around us. We make friends with the other kids at school, even the ones that don't seem like they really need friends. Because the ones who don't seem like they need friends are the ones who need them the most. I can almost promise you that. We get to know each other. We make it not just a habit, but we make it a necessity to get to know the people that are around us and to make acquaintanceship with everyone that we come across. We make it a point to smile at people at the gas station and hold doors open for people and carry little conversations with cashiers and with checkout people and with restaurateurs and waitresses. And you talk, you communicate, you make relationship with people. You foster a state of brotherhood. And I'm not trying to say brotherhood, patriarchy. Screw that. We're using the word brotherhood because it's an easy word to use. You make acquaintanceship with people. You get to know people. That's how you keep things like this from happening. You don't take everybody's guns away. You don't arm everyone. You don't stand and point fingers at who's right and who's wrong and who's doing it the wrong way. And the law says this and the Constitution says, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all words. Words don't do much. Actions do. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know the kids around you. If you're a parent and you have kids, get to know your kids as friends. Be a parent to your kids' friends. Shit, be a parent to your kids. I see a lot of parents out there that don't care to actually parent their own children. They'd rather be friends than parents. Be a parent to your kids. Give them a sense of stability. Give them a sense of structure. That's what people need. People need to have these things. And when you're sending your kids off to school and you're talking about how afraid you are of your children going to school, and this isn't me pointing fingers at anybody in particular, but if you're afraid for how your children are, if you're afraid to send your children to school because you don't know what's going to happen, make it a point to know. Make it a point to know what the safety structures are in the school. Make it a point to know your child. Make it a point to know your child's friends and your child's peers. Make it a point to be involved with the school and to be involved in the lives of the people in that school. Get to know the teachers. Get to know the administration. If you want to eliminate fear and you want to eliminate violence, it's all about getting to know the people around you, especially the ones you don't want to get to know. They need it too. So I guess this has been bothering me. The school shootings bother me. The comment that I made to reply to the Facebook post the other day after the shooting from my school acquaintances was, there is not a single school shooting that happens ever since that day that ours did that I don't fear for those children, feel for those children, hurt for those children, and sympathize with those children and their families and the administration, knowing full well that the rest of their lives, they and I are now kin. Every time a school shooting happens, those kids will relive that situation over and over and over again. You want to keep people safe? Get to know the people around you. Foster a sense of brotherhood, a sense of sisterhood, a sense of community. Don't be afraid of your community. Embrace your community. Get to know your community. Get to know the people around you. So I guess that's my commentary for today, for what it's worth. I hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you guys next week. See ya.